What is up, everybody? Welcome into the show and a happy Thursday to the faithful. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr., and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, as always, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. It is a beautiful Thursday, March 20th of 2025, and there's so much to talk about here over the next hour or so as we talk all things Niners, as we always do right here on the program. Apologies for the late start. Producer Chip, he's a Clemson grad, and Clemson just lost as the 5 seed to McNeese State in that game that came down to the wire. Will Wade, who's about to take that South Carolina head coaching job, leading McNeese State to their first ever win in the NCAA tournament in program history. Enough of that, though, although happy March Madness to everybody watching the show here. One of the best times of the year, the NCAA tournament after last week's theatrics for NFL free agency. Couple of things that I want to hit you with. We will be doing a mailbag. Segment number 3, because we have 3 segments on the rundown today. So get your questions in starting right now. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. And if you're ready to talk some Niners football, almost 200 people watching live, I need everybody to help me out. If you enjoy the show, you like what I do, you like what we do here on the Niners Report and at Chat Sports, please help me out. Hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. With 200 people watching live, we should be able to get to 100 likes in the next 10 seconds. So everybody, smash that thumbs up icon, like the video. We've been prepping for this show all day. Some fantastic content that is coming your way. We're going to talk about some of the moves that the Niners have made, which could lead us to some big moves coming for San Francisco. We will do some draft talk as well. I'm going to discuss 2 players who Kyle Shanahan might be putting on notice, and then, of course, we will answer your questions as well. North of 200 people hanging out. We're up to 66 likes. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video as you venture in here. Whoever sends in super chats will also answer those as well, because we appreciate everybody who supports the program. Shout out to everybody who's here with us in the early going. Elms Treater, Jose Ramirez, CDL, Candy, Justin Brody, Evan Went, Pockets the Cheesecake, Sammy, Daniel Bing, Robin Frizzell, Stovey is also in the house. Appreciate everybody for being here with the segment number 1. I want to go through the moves that the Niners have made so far, which could set us up for San Francisco making some big money decisions, even though up to this point, they've been one of the lowest spending teams in free agency. The mean of the acquisitions that they've made on a yearly basis, about $2 million. But they have made some of the most moves across the National Football League. So we're going to begin with that. We're up to 81 likes. Shout out to Terrell Owens. Let's get to 100 likes in the next 10 seconds. It's Chip, it's Chase, it's the Faithful and the Niner Gang. The official show starts right now, so let's get it. All right, here we go. Welcome into the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. What I want to talk about, up to this point, all of the free agent acquisitions that the Niners have signed so far, the mean of their salaries on a yearly basis is just over $2 million per season. But the 49ers have made some of the most moves as far as total free agents brought in among all 32 teams in the National Football League. So point being, San Francisco has not made big money moves yet. But could that change, led by John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan? Let's talk about it here. What the Niners have done so far, they have let high-priced free agents go. Some of the marquee free agents who have left San Francisco in free agency, their contracts combined well over $300 million. So the Niners wanted to let those players go. After deserving their bags, San Francisco wanted to save some money and not overpay, and clearly other teams across the NFL saw value in the players that used to be on the Niners. And that's why San Francisco, over the last several years, they've had some of the most talented teams in the National Football League. Now, of course, As part of that, and a lot of these moves that the Niners have made, they're eating a lot of dead money. What dead money is, players who count for money on the cap who are not going to be on your football team. More on that in a moment. San Francisco elsewhere, as I noted, has signed a bunch of cheap free agents, value plays, hoping that the Niners can get a good bang for the buck with some of these free agent acquisitions. In particular, they've really put an emphasis on improving their special teams unit. The Niners have also loaded up on draft picks, not just for the 2025 draft, but the 2026 draft. And San Francisco is clearly trying to cut costs, save money after spending well over $300 million last year, and maintain cap space for now and in the future. But could that cap space be utilized soon? As for the Niners' dead money charges, per over the cap, right now, $77 million. That is the number that the Niners have to eat. That's not factoring in these post-June 1 designations. But San Francisco is still in a pretty good spot as far as cap space for the 2025 season. Top 10 teams across the NFL. New England Patriots have dished out a lot of cash. They still lead all teams with $81.5 million in cap room. The Seattle Seahawks, 70 even. Chargers, 50.7. Las Vegas Raiders, 50.5. Detroit Lions, a shade under 50. Arizona Cardinals, just north of 45. The Niners, as of right now, just under $45 million in cap room. Cowboys at 39.5. Titans at 37.2. And the Jacksonville Jaguars at 36.9. Of note, this is important to remember, cap space can be carried over a year. So the money that the Niners do not spend now, that can be saved for the cap next year, and maybe next year is the year where they can alter their strategy, see where they are, assess things, and maybe spend some more dollars during the free agency period. As of this moment, I know it's very early. San Francisco in 2026 has $62 million in cap space. That is 16th, right in the middle of the National Football League. The moves that the Niners have made so far, I've previewed it, right? A lot of special teamers, a lot of depth pieces, a lot of players who the Niners are hoping they can get on the right track, maximize them, and develop them. Luke Farrell, a number 2 tight end who's a really good blocker and a special teams player. It's a lot of money, 20.25 for a tight end too, but the Niners, especially in that running game last year, missed the likes of a Charlie Warner or a Ross Dwelly. 3 years, 20.25, $11 million guaranteed for Luke Farrell. Patrick Taylor, backup running back, special teamer. Richie Grant is a former second-round pick who's played in a lot of games, started a lot of games. He's a decent depth piece at that safety spot. You're giving him $345,000 in guaranteed money. That's chump change in the NFL. It's a lot of money for people like you and I. Luke Gifford, one of the best special teams linebackers in the NFL since he entered the league as a UDFA out of Nebraska. He could be a backup backer with some potential there, and a really good special teamer under new coordinator Brant Boyer. Kevin Givens back as a rotational defensive tackle. Jason Pinnock is a player who's really good when he's around the line of scrimmage. He can sack the quarterback in an impressive way for a cornerback safety hybrid. He can come through with tackles for losses. And when he's downhill, he can make plays on the football. Demarcus Robinson, 2 years, $9.5, $6 million guaranteed. What does he do well? Beat man coverage. What did he do last year? More than 500 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns, more than 16 yards per catch. He's the Niners wide receiver 4, but a good one at $6 million guaranteed. There's some chatter that Trey Brown, a former 4th-round pick out of Oklahoma, who's signing a 1-year, $2 million deal with the Niners, could be their third cornerback alongside Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green. Mac Jones going to be the backup behind Brock Purdy. Kyle Shanahan finally gets his guy who he really liked going into the 2021 draft. Instead, San Francisco moved up to take Trey Lance. They whiffed on it, but every quarterback from that class is pretty much bad. Trevor Lawrence isn't even that good. John Weeks, 1 year, $1.42 million. Long snapper. Hopefully he'll be better than a Tabor Pepper. Kyle Juszczyk, a little bit rich for my liking. 2 years, $8 million, but culture is very important. And then Saran Neal, really good special teams player. The Niners signing him to a 2-year contract. Some of the money allocated as far as cap space available, will be allocated to the Niners draft class. They have a lot of picks, and obviously it's going to be so important for San Francisco to hit on those selections. But what other moves could the Niners have in store? I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment as that preview sets in for you. But first, if you want to support the show, you want to support the Niners, San Francisco, you know the motto. Get your shirts now available in Niner red and black at chatsports.com/SF. We're going to put that link down below in the comment section and in the description of today's show. That's chatsports.com/SF. Get your San Francisco shirts today. So you think about where the Niners are right now, and you think about some of the money that they have, the money that's been saved, and some of the existing players on their team. Are the Niners about to finally dole out some dollars? The Brock Purdy contract extension, it is looming. He's entering the 4th year of his career, which is the last year of his rookie contract after he was Mr. Irrelevant in the 2022 NFL Draft. You think about the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. Dak Prescott leading that list atop it at $60 million per season. Tied for second now after his rework deal, Josh Allen at 55. Tied with him, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence. Coming in at number 6, Tua Tagovailoa at 53 and a dime. Jared Goff is making 53. Justin Herbert at 52.5. Lamar Jackson at 52, and Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP at 51. He could be looking for a raise. Lamar Jackson could be looking for a raise as the quarterback market continues to get reset. So, of course, the question here with Brock Purdy, what is his contract going to look like as far as years, total dollars, guaranteed money, average annual salary, and when will that contract be situated? When will it be figured out? Jed York, somebody within that organization, is leaking a lot of information to NFL Insider and 49ers Insider Mike Silver saying, we're going to be a little bit more difficult in these contract negotiations after we don't like how things have transpired over the last couple of years. And I expect these conversations and this back and forth between Purdy and his representation and the Niners to maybe get tense at some point. But Brock Purdy's done a lot of good. Brock Purdy's been a top 10 quarterback for the most part since he took over as the team's starting quarterback in 2022. He's done some really impressive things, including going to back-to-back NFC Championship games as a starter, and in that latter year, going to the Super Bowl, and he played well in the Super Bowl. And he does some things at a really elite level. Warren Sharp put these numbers out earlier this week. Brock Purdy on go routes, also known as a vertical or a 9, he's number 1 in go route accuracy and efficiency since 2023. Only 9% of his passes have been incomplete due to accuracy. Number 1 among all quarterbacks. His go route rankings, number 1 in success rate at 59%, number 1 in yards per attempt at 17.2, number 1 in completion rate at 58%, number 2 in EPA per attempt, and that's among 49 quarterbacks. So Brock Purdy has some limitations. Smaller dude, not a bazooka for an arm, but clearly the deep ball is a little bit underrated. He throws with elite timing, touch, anticipation. He processes very well. So some of the weaknesses to his game, he's able to make up for it with some of the aforementioned traits. Again, the big question, how much are the Niners going to offer Brock Purdy on that contract extension, and what is it going to look like? There could be another extension that the Niners give out, and one that's going to cost a decent amount of money. That's the George Kittle contract extension. On the wrong side of 30, but showing no signs of slowing down. And I'll tell you what, the last 2 years in particular, since Brock Purdy became the team's starting quarterback, George Kittle has arguably been the best tight end in all of football, and a lot of tight ends that compete with him are not doing what he does in the blocking game. Pass blocking, run blocking, and of course, he's so critical to the Niners culture as well. He should never wear another uniform outside of a San Francisco 49ers jersey. But look, highest paid tight ends per year, George Kittle has the argument to be made that he should still be on this list inside the top 3. He's number 3 right now, and he can make the argument to the Niners, I should be number 1 because I've been better than Travis Kelce over the last couple of years, who's making $17 million per. George Kittle is better than TJ Hawkinson, who's making $16.5. Other tight ends on this list, Dallas Goedert going into the final year of his deal like Kittle is, Mark Andrews at 14, David Njoku at under 14, Cole Kmet at 12.5, Pat Freiermuth at 12 and a dime, Dalton Schultz at 12 even, and Noah Fant at 10.5. The tight end position is undervalued and underpaid in my opinion, and that position is due for a reset. Will it be George Kittle who resets the market? Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2023 and in 2024. Niners were unfortunately hit with just mediocre quarterback play in 2022 and in 2021. And I think that led to George Kittle's numbers suffering to a certain degree. He also dealt with some nagging injuries from time to time, but his game has really come alive with Brock Purdy, as evidenced by the touchdown numbers the last 3 years. 8 and 6 the last two, with 11 in 2022, and 3/4 of those came once Brock Purdy became the team's starting quarterback. And the body of work that Kittle has had, very impressive. Since 2018, Pro Bowl All-Pro, Pro Bowl All-Pro. In 2020, nothing, he only played 8 games. Pro Bowl All-Pro, Pro Bowl All-Pro, Pro Bowl All-Pro in 2024. He's going to ask for some money. What is that price tag going to be? And then the last big money deal that the Niners could give out, All-Pro Fred. Like George Kittle, he's not showing any signs of slowing down. Like George Kittle, he's still arguably the best player at his position. He's due for a contract extension potentially. And like George Kittle, he's been one of the heartbeats of this Niners team. And we've seen this linebacker market get reset a little bit. And it was Zach Bond who paved the way after one good year of production in his late 20s with the Philadelphia Eagles defense that finished number 1 in the NFL. And Bond was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year and a first-team All-Pro. He got $17 million per season. And then what happened? Nick Bolton got paid. He's on this list. Jamian Sherwood got paid. He's on this list. Terrell Bernard got a bag. He's on this list. Dre Greenlaw got paid. He's number 9. And all of those contracts that I mentioned were all signed this offseason. You see Fred Warner, that's a good place to be. North of $19 million per year, second highest paid linebacker per season behind Roquan Smith. And I think Fred Warner is much better than Roquan Smith. So if he wants a new deal, maybe the last time that he can get a lucrative contract extension, given that he's in his late 20s, how much is he going to ask for? And so part of the Niners shedding salary and saving money could be because their plans are to pay Purdy, Kittle, Warner, so that they can continue to be pillars of this Niners organization. So what say you? This is today's poll question. Should the Niners extend all 3 players, P for pay, D for deny? Share your thoughts with me down in the comments section. Let's get to the super chat from Elms Treater, $20. And Elms is a first time super chatter. The only super chat to come in today. I'll make a deal with the people. If somebody sends in a $50 super chat, I'm going to have somebody bring me a beer so that I can drink a beer for day 1 of the NCAA tournament. If you want to get on the show, we will be doing a mailbag segment number 3. We have segment number 2 coming up here momentarily. If you want to get your questions answered, your hot take shared, your analysis peddled out to thousands of people who watch this show, millions of people who watch this show, use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Coming up next, we're about to talk some Niners draft stuff. We're going to go through Mel Kiper's mock draft. Who does he have going to the Niners? And Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft. Who does he have going to San Francisco?
With March Madness on today, who does everybody have winning? I have my Clemson Tigers. Didn't work out.
Chip had his Clemson Tigers winning the NCAA tournament. They're out in the round of 64 because McNeese State, led by Will Wade, who's leaving for South Carolina, they win their first tournament game in program history as a 12 seed. Oh, Candy! $50 super chat. Just saying hello, guys, and thank you for always keeping the Niners updated. Candy, we got you. We got the faithful. We got the Niner Empire. And we got the Niner gang. Thank you for that 50. I'll message somebody after this segment to bring in a beer so that I can crack a beer for day one of the NCAA tournament. Appreciate that. Some people are asking, who is Mel Kiper? He is the lead NFL draft expert for ESPN, and he's been their number one draft expert for decades and decades. So he's really good at what he does. And then Daniel Jeremiah handles all of the draft work pretty much for NFL Network. He goes to the Combine. He's the co-host and analyst next to Rich Eisen if you watch the NFL Combine. So two studs in the NFL draft community. So going to take a look at their mock drafts. Who do they have going to the San Francisco 49ers? Let's dive in right now. All right, it's time to do some Niners draft talk here on the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Thanks for hanging out here with us. Coming up, mock draft roundup. We're going to see who Mel Kiper, ESPN NFL draft analyst, has going to the Niners with pick number 11 in the first round. And then on top of that, we're going to take a look at Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft and who he has going to San Francisco with pick number 11. Mel Kiper of ESPN, Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network, and I'll, of course, share my thoughts, and we'll give you some background and some scouting reports on these players from us here at Chat Sports. It is almost draft time for San Francisco. NFL draft coming up at the end of April. If you're excited to see what happens with the Niners, to see which players they bring in as the new wave of this Niners organization gets underway, hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. We always like to inform the people, so let's start here by taking a look at the Niners list of 2025 draft picks. This is updated and new following the Jordan Mason trade last weekend to the Minnesota Vikings. Niners will first be on the clock in the first round at pick number 11. Their earliest pick since they took Trey Lance out of North Dakota State back in the 2021 NFL Draft. Back on the board, second round, pick number 43. They have a third-round selection at 75 and a third-round pick at number 100. 4 picks inside the top 100. If the Niners can hit on all 4 of these, and those 4 rookies become impact players right from the jump, the ship can get turned around very quickly for this organization. More valuable draft capital. Niners have a pick 113 overall in the 4th round, 138 later in that 4th, 2 fifth-rounders at 147 and 160, and then 3 seventh-round picks at 227, 249, 252. By the way, we will be live for every single pick, every single day, every single round of the NFL Draft, doing videos on every single Niners draft pick, so don't miss our coverage. The biggest remaining needs for the Niners going into draft time, as pretty much the heat of NFL free agency has died down a little bit, offensive line. Right tackle, center, left guard. Although the Niners seem to be very comfortable with Colton McKivitz as their right tackle and Matt Hennessy and Jake Brendel battling it out to be this team's starting center. In my opinion, it's the wrong strategy. They need to get better along the offensive line, along the defensive line, the opposite side of the trenches. Niners currently, as it stands, have a bottom 5 defensive line. They need multiple defensive tackles, multiple edge rushers. Other needs, linebacker, they lose Dre Greenlaw. Cornerback, you need another one there, although they like Trey Brown to potentially be the number 3 next to Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green, but you need depth badly. And then running back, wide receiver, tight end on the offensive side of the rock. To Mel Kiper's pick for the San Francisco 49ers, I agree with it. I love it because in my first Niners mock draft, which dropped earlier this week, I went with the same player. Missouri right tackle Armand Membu. He went up against elite competition in the SEC at right tackle, where the Niners have a need, and he performed so well against some of the top edge rushers in the SEC, some of the top prospects in this year's draft class, time and time and time again. the consistency really stood out to me when watching the tape. And then his athleticism jumped while at the NFL Combine. He earned a 9.82 relative athletic score grade. He measured in at 6'4", 332 pounds, had a vertical leap of 34 inches, a broad jump of just under 10 feet. At that size, that's tremendous. He said when I interviewed him that he was going to run a 4.8. He clocked a 4.91 at that weight of 332 pounds. The 20-yard split, the 10-yard split, important for offensive linemen because of that short area quickness. The arm length, 33.5. Some teams don't like their tackles to have arms under 34 inches, but I just think the player is special enough to the point where that doesn't matter. Some teams think that he's going to be a guard. I think he's a right tackle, and I think he's a really good one. Graded out very well with the Pro Football Focus overall grades, 90.4 overall grade, 85.4 pass blocking grade, 87.6 run blocking grade. He gave up no sacks, did have 4 penalties, but on top of that, 0 hits allowed and 9 hurries of the quarterback surrender. And I think that he would be a really good scheme fit in Kyle Shanahan's offense with his ability to get out in space with that speed and athleticism to really be a force in the ground game as well. Here's what Kiper had to say about Membu to San Francisco. I think he's the best offensive tackle in this class, by the way. In case you missed it, the Niners suddenly have a lot of needs. A snippet of the key losses over the past week: Charvarius Ward, Leonard Floyd, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Javon Hargrave, Deebo Samuel. That's a bunch of talent walking out of the door, and the Niners could really address any of those spots. But San Francisco also is working to extend quarterback Brock Purdy, and building up the offensive line in front of him has to be a priority. Aaron Banks, Jalen Moore signed elsewhere. Trent Williams, who has 2 years left on his deal, will be 37 this upcoming season. Membu is my top-ranked tackle in this class, and I see him sliding in on the right side where he started 30 games in college. He also could play guard at a high level early in his career, however, then transition to left tackle down the road. Now, the recent chatter is what I mentioned, that the Niners love Colton McKivitz. If Armand Membu is on the board, you take him, and you run that pick to the podium, especially if you are going to give Brock Purdy a contract extension worth between $45 and $60 million per season. We'll see what his market is. We'll see what that price tag is. But you need to get better along the offensive line. That helps you with the pass. It helps you in the ground game. And if Brock Purdy weren't so mobile, I think the offensive line play last year would have been even worse than what met the eye. So do you like the selection of Membu? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Join the conversation, as always, down in the comment section. Our sponsor for today's program, our friends at Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the game, and the only daily fantasy sports app that you should be using. Billions of dollars handed out in awarded winnings, and more than 10 million active members. It's daily fantasy sports made easy, where you pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on the projected stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Right now, when you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Some picks that we like coming up. It's NCAA tournament time here. Johnny Broome for Auburn, more than a half point. That's a special from Prize Picks. John Poulikitis, more than 21.5 points, rebounds, and dimes. And then Joe Bamisile, more than 1.5 3-pointers made. That's how easy it is. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players, choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. So we segue from Mel Kiper's mock draft to Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft and his pick for the San Francisco 49ers. He doesn't go offensive line. He doesn't even go defensive line. He goes with Texas cornerback Jahdae Barron. This is a surprising pick for me. I wouldn't like this. I think there are greater needs of larger importance than cornerback. There is no doubt that San Francisco needs to bring in corners as far as overall talent and depth. But I would go trenches with this selection. Offensive line, defensive line, I've said it for a while too. I'm kind of a fan of trading back if the board falls a certain way. I also think that Barron, taking him here at number 11, would be a reach. Now, he tested well athletically, 8.99 relative athletic score grade. He's 5'10", 184, 35-inch vertical, only a decent broad jump. And you see how the height, the weight, the vertical, the broad, all of those red and yellow. That's mediocre to bad. Now, he flew in the 40-yard dash, running a sub 4.4, so he can really run with the best of them. He has a lot of versatility in that secondary, but I just think at number 11, even if you trade back, you can find better players than Jahdae Barron out of Texas. Here's what Jeremiah said as far as his reasoning. The 49ers defense has seen a lot of departures this offseason, including at cornerback. Barron is one of the most consistent players on tape among prospects in this year's class, and he can take the ball away. He'll be able to match up against some of the talented slot receivers in the division. And Daniel Jeremiah makes a really good point, right? There are some talented slot corners inside the NFC West. There are talented slot corners across the NFL. And right now, the Niners don't really have a go-to slot cornerback. Some people think it's going to be Trey Brown, who barely played for the Seattle Seahawks after he was a fourth-round pick out of Oklahoma a few years ago. But making plays on the football, generating turnovers, that is something that Barron did at Texas at a high level. That's something that the Niners are now going to miss with Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw going elsewhere because they manufactured a ton of turnovers throughout their time with San Francisco. 67 tackles for Barron, sure-handed tackler there, 3 TFLs, so he can make some plays behind the line of scrimmage. 1 sack, you're not going to use him there a lot because you want him back in coverage. 16 pass breakups at the college level, that is phenomenal. At the NFL level, that's terrific. 5 interceptions, that's really impressive. And then 1 forced fumble. So he generated 6 total turnovers last year in 16 games. When he was targeted, gave up only 36 catches on 67 attempts for 279 yards, did not give up a touchdown in coverage a year ago for a team that made it deep in the college football playoff. And the quarterback rating when targeted, so low, 33.1. And so the theme with Barron, making plays on the football, playing with instincts, fast runner. I don't necessarily care about the weight and the height when you're playing slot corner or cornerback in general. You need to be able to run and make plays on the ball. To his credit, that's something that Barron did very well. His final 3 years in college, 3 pass breakups, no picks. 5 pass breakups, 2 picks. 7 PBUs, 1 pick. And then a great senior season, 16 PBUs, 5 interceptions. So who do you like more as far as being the pick for San Francisco between these two who we talked about on today's show? Type AM for Armand Membou, JB for Jahdae Barron. See what the people say here. Interested to see where people are.
Seems heavily Armand Membou so far. Just 1 Jahdae Barron.
Fans, Chip, have been clamoring for the Niners to take an offensive lineman and improve the offensive line over the last few years.
Yeah, that's the way you got to go, in my opinion. I agree with your analysis. Look, you could use a third corner for sure, but
no doubt
you need to improve that O-line. You have to. It's more important.
Need to. What studio are we in? H?
H. Big H. Even in the new ones, we're still in H.
Yeah, that's funny. H is kind of our go-to spot. A lot of people saying Armand Membou. I don't see one person going Jahdae Barron here so far. Oh, Ariel Cordero. I see ya. All right, sometimes it's good to stick out. Maybe you'll be right and we'll be wrong. John Wallace, Chase, answer me this. If you were the GM, who would be your first 3 picks? I did my mock draft earlier this week. My first pick, if available, is Armand Membou. And then in that second round, I'm probably going defensive tackle. And then in the third round, maybe Cam Scadaboo if I don't go back to the trenches. I really want to rebuild the offensive line and defensive line. I think that's how you win. That was how the Philadelphia Eagles, absolutely, thank you, Moose, annihilated the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59. That's the formula. Hey, thanks to Candy for the $50 super chat. I said if you send in a 50, I'm cracking a beer, so cheers to you. If you're ready for segment number 3, type me. And this is your last call to get your questions in. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Hashtag 49ers, send in a super chat. We're going to talk about 2 players who have been put on notice by Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and then we'll take your questions. Use that hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Do I think that Shanahan would actually play Scadaboo? Yeah. To me, Scadaboo is like a perfect Kyle Shanahan player. Loves ball, versatile, impact guy from the jump.
Get those questions in, man.
I see one question coming in from Anonymous.
Got one from Draco.
Tom, do I like what the Niners are doing this offseason? Not really. So-so. Draco using hashtag 49ers. Mitchell and Ness. Kyle will do the opposite of what the Niners need. He'll drop the running back or wide receiver with the 2nd and 3rd picks. Wouldn't surprise me if he goes running back round 3 again.
I saw a couple people ask a question early on. If you did ask a question like at the beginning of the show, ask it again. Just so it pulls through here.
Yep.
Some of the earlier ones didn't quite come through.
Robert Wade, he's ready for this next segment. Rolando Lopez is as well. We're $30 away from 100 in supers. If we get there before the end of this segment, I'm going to do a beer fall and chug a beer here on the show. $30 away from $100 in super chats. All right, segment number 3 about to get underway. We'll take your questions on the back half. Look forward to chopping it up. But in the meantime, there's something I want to talk about before we do that mailbag. Hey there, welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Hope everybody out there is having a fantastic weekend. 2 topics I want to get to here today and 2 things that I want to accomplish. I want to talk about 2 players who the Niners have put on notice going into the 2025 season. And then on the back half of the show, we're taking questions from the faithful. So a topic, mailbag, you get the idea. We'll take your questions and we'll chop it up with all of our loyal viewers, subscribers, and real ones. Before we do all of that, let's run it up. Let's continue to grow the Niner empire under the Chat Sports umbrella right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. As you can see with these numbers to my right, we're 214 people away from 159,000 subscribers. I think that we can get there with this show, so lock us in, do the right thing, and subscribe today. I want to start off with this. You think about what the 49ers have done this offseason, what they have accomplished so far, which will then lead me to 2 players who the Niners have put on notice going into 2025. Both of them on the defensive side of the ball. Both of them play the same position. What San Francisco's done, they've let high-priced free agents go. They've eaten a lot of dead money. They have signed cheap free agents. They've loaded up on draft picks the next 2 drafts. And they've maintained a lot of cap room for this year and next year. Included within all of that, the Niners have completely reset along the defensive line, and it looks as though in the draft they plan on completely remaking that unit. Malik Collins, see ya. Leonard Floyd, goodbye. Javon Hargrave, like those other 2 players, got a bag from the Minnesota Vikings. Those are 3 starting caliber players who the Niners have lost along that defensive line. And all of them got scooped up very quickly by their respective teams. Leonard Floyd to the Falcons, Malik Collins to the Browns, Javon Hargrave to the Minnesota Vikings. And so the Niners starting defensive line as of this recording would be, if they were to play a game this weekend, Yeturgos Matos at edge rusher, Jordan Elliott at defensive tackle, Evan Anderson at the other defensive tackle spot, and Nick Bosa at edge rusher. I'm not sure that any of those 3 players outside of Nick Bosa would start on many other teams across the entire National Football League. Jordan Elliott, solid player, good run stuffer, not a good pass rusher. Evan Anderson, a UDFA who as a rookie showed some flashes. And Yetur Gross-Matos up to this point has been pretty disappointing since being a second-round pick out of Penn State by the Carolina Panthers and going into his second year with San Francisco. Now, I'll give you some good news here. Positive spin zone action. It is a very deep defensive tackle draft class with some quality edge rushers. And you can get a really quality edge rusher round 1, round 2. You can get some really good defensive tackles rounds 1 through 4 in this draft class. So if you load up at those positions, you can really remake that unit, as I alluded to a little bit earlier. But with the Niners' move so far in letting players go, and the Niners' lack of moves of bringing defensive linemen in, 2 players have been put on notice by Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. The first one is Yetur Gross-Matos. Shit or get off the pot. It is time for Yetur Gross-Matos to step up, play well, and show why he was a second-round pick out of Penn State as an athletic freak who did really impressive things while in Happy Valley, playing under James Franklin as this superiorly athletic, gifted defensive lineman. Superiorly. Don't even think it's a word, but I just made it one. Yetur Gross-Matos last offseason. He came to the Niners after being one of the more improved players on that Panthers defense in 2023, and he signed a 2-year, $18 million contract. Didn't work out for Carolina, but the athletic testing numbers across the board were freakish. What I do like about him, he has inside-outside versatility. We have seen Chris Kocurek maximize those types of players. Arden Key, Charles Omenihu, Jordan Willis, Cleveland Ferrell. And so those types of players have a role, and they have found success in this defensive system. And I do think that Kocurek and Robert Saleh can maximize a player who's so gifted like Yetur Gross-Matos. And once he came off that knee injury last year, I actually thought he played pretty well. But now the Niners are giving him a career-altering opportunity. He could start at defensive end. He could see a lot of action. And if he produces, given the importance of that position, he has an opportunity to cash in, and the Niners badly need him to develop and be a contributor for this team in 2025. Them holding on to him when he could have been a post-June 1 cut and letting go of Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, and Javon Hargrave is very telling. And then naturally, the other player who the Niners have put on notice is Nick Bosa. Jed York is not happy with how these contract negotiations have gone of late. He feels as though they got fleeced by Deebo Samuel in his camp, Brandon Ayuk in his camp. And they gave Nick Bosa the biggest contract for any non-quarterback in the history of football at the time, in giving him an average annual value salary of $34 million per year. And Nick Bosa, since he signed that deal going into 2023, has been very good. He has not been truly elite like you would be hoping for when you give a player historic money. And so the Niners are looking at Bosa, and they're saying a couple of things. It's time for you to earn your bag. It's time for you to have a great year and be elite, not just solid to very good. The Niners are going to rely on Bosa to lead that unit. And especially if they bring in a lot of young players, he's going to have to be that leader, that voice, the definition of a guy who talks the talk, walks the walk, leads by example, and leads with great play. And the Niners are saying, we're going to let all these defensive linemen go. We're going to reset that room, but we want you, Nick Bosa, to be an anchor. We want you to be a face of this organization. We want you to be a franchise cornerstone to build with. And it's time for Bosa to live up to that payday. Highest paid edge rushers per year. Myles Garrett now at $40 million. Max Crosby, $35.5 million. Nick Bosa still number 3 at $34 million. Now, he can move down if the Dallas Cowboys decide to pay Micah Parsons, and I think Parsons, he's going to be in the market for $40+ million. But some other really good players on this list who have been more productive than Bosa the last 2 years while making less money. Brian Burns has been very good. TJ Watt has been better than Bosa. Danielle Hunter actually just got more money. He's up to like $35.5 million. Montez Sweat, Bosa's better than him. Bosa's better than Rashawn Gary. Bosa's better than Leonard Williams. But the point here being, it's just time for Bosa to have another one of those Defensive Player of the Year types of seasons, and the Niners really, really need it, considering the lack of depth along that defensive end spot and along that defensive line. Now, you look at what he's done the last 4 years. The numbers have been awesome. In 2021, he comes off that torn ACL that he suffered in Game 2 of 2020, his second season in the NFL. He has 15.5 sacks, 32 quarterback hits, 21 TFLs, 75 pressures. 2022, wins Defensive Player of the Year. That's what set him up for that payday. 18.5 sacks, 48 quarterback hits, 19 TFLs, 90 pressures. In 2023, the sack numbers did go down, but look at what he did elsewhere. That's why I'm not going to say he's been a bust since the contract. He's been very good. 35 quarterback hits, 16 TFLs. He actually had more pressures in 2023 than he had when he won Defensive Player of the Year, 95 as compared to 90. And in 2024, he would have had another double-digit sack season if he stayed healthy. He only played 14 games. He missed 3, had 9 sacks, 24 quarterback hits, 15 TFLs, and 69 pressures. At times, he took over games. He has to do it more consistently, and that's why I think that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, with their roster moves, what they've done, the decisions that they've made, they've also put Nick Bosa on notice here. So fill in the blank. Nick Bosa has been what since signing that contract extension? I want to see what you all come up with. San Francisco shirts are available. Get them today to support the show, support your Niners, and wear something that is going to be a conversation starter. Somebody sees you out with that, they're like, 49ers report? San Francisco, let's go. Head to chatsports.com/SF. Get your shirts today, available in Niner red as well as black. We have sent these all across the world. Chatsports.com/SF. All right, we're going to start to take your questions here on the San Francisco 49ers report. Always enjoy seeing what you all have to say, what you have to ask me. So let's do a mailbag here. Chris Teal starts us off. Chase, the 49ers got tight end Luke Farrell. He's a great blocking tight end, yet 0 career touchdowns. Would you draft another tight end, knowing last season the Niners sucked in the red zone? It's a good point. I've been saying over the last couple of drafts, I would love for San Francisco to take a talented tight end. Cam Latu, bust. Braden Willis, not that good. This tight end class is a very deep one. And you can find some really talented players on day 3. And I hope the Niners do that to bring in a young tight end who you can develop. Now, they might think they have that guy in Mason Pline, who was on the practice squad last year, a UDFA. He has that basketball background. Really good athlete, but very raw. Need to see more. And whether they take a tight end or not, it depends on their evaluation of Mason Pline. But I'd like to see more 2 tight end sets. Luke Farrell, not much of a pass catcher as compared to being a blocker. And the Niners did suck in the red zone. A lot of reasons for that. Thought the play calling was bad. Play designs were not good. Offensive line play, they got pushed around. They missed the versatility of Christian McCaffrey. They didn't run it well. Brock Purdy didn't play as well. There were a lot of injuries to skill position players. All those factors behind the red zone struggles, and that's an area where the Niners just need to drastically improve. Next question here. Not sure how to say the name, but I know you watch the show a lot, so I appreciate you. Cam Scatterbu, Kyle Juszczyk, would they be interchangeable? Now, when the Niners moved off of Kyle Juszczyk originally, before they brought him back, I'm thinking, okay, Luke Farrell, he can block. He can fulfill that tight end role. A lot of other teams across the NFL use tight ends in that H-back, fullback role. I'm thinking Luke Farrell can do that, and then that could open up an opportunity for the Niners to draft Cam Scatterbu. I think that he can handle a lot of those types of issues that you had last year and solve them. I think that he can Be that fullback, running back, catch passes out of the backfield, be a good pass protector. He's so strong with that lower half. His contact balance is unbelievable, but then they brought Kyle Juszczyk back. But then they also traded away Jordan Mason after they brought Juszczyk back. So I think Scadaboo is an option. I do think that him and Juice could be interchangeable. I think that you could have them both on the field at the same time, and that's a lot of muscle in that backfield for San Francisco. I'd love to see it. John Wallace, for the questions, Chet. I'm asking, do you believe that Robert Saleh has been given the power to choose our defensive picks? Maybe not full-on autonomy, but he's going to have a lot to say. That was a lot of the chatter after the Niners signed him. And the Niners gave him one of the biggest contracts for all defensive coordinators in the game. When you bring in Robert Saleh, you pay him that much money, you're going to give him some defensive personnel say. You're going to give him the leash. You're going to give him some power to have some input on some of these draft picks because he wants players who are going to fit in his system. You're also banking on him maximizing players, putting them in a position to make plays and be productive and develop players. And so, yeah, I think Saleh is going to play a pivotal role for this Niners team, and hopefully he's here for at least 2 seasons. Joe G. Chase, what do you think? Will Campbell's shorter arms, will it hinder him as an offensive tackle? Not sure what the naysayers are harping about. Yeah, look, his arms are a little bit short, and there are always concerns about the lack of arm length for offensive tackle prospects. Will Campbell is a really good athlete, though. He had a 9.88 relative athletic score grade. He's 6'5", 319, 32 in the vertical, more than 9 feet in the broad jump. He ran a 5-flat, 40-yard dash. His arms, 32.6 inches. When you compare that to Armand Membu, who also has some arm length questions, he came in at 33.5. So Will Campbell's arms are short, but he did talk about that at the NFL Combine. I thought he made some really good points. He said, I know my arms are shorter. That just means my feet have to be quicker. My technique has to be a little bit better. And I think with that, with the athleticism, with the experience, with the really good play at that offensive tackle spot, he can make up for the lack of arm length. It's not the end-all, be-all. Draco Pimpin, my guy, hope all is well in Vegas. Trade your second and third, or trade your second for 3 third-rounders, or your second and a 7th to get to pick 29. I would trade a second and a 7th to get back to pick 29. Now, obviously, it depends on how the board falls and what the value is there, but if you're at 11 and you stay there, and then you can get back to 29, you get 2 first-round picks who can be high-level impact players for you right away, and you need it because you need players on this roster. I like that strategy. Shoot, if you move back from 11 to like 13 to 15, and then you move back to the end of the first round, or even move up from 43 in the second round, I'm for that. I am not against a trade back, depending on how the board falls, because I do think that you can get really good value in this draft. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for the best Niners coverage right here on YouTube. As always, thank you so much for supporting the show. You're all the best. Did this really come in? Oh! Dragon Slayer comes out of nowhere with a $100 super chat. Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer. Thank you, brother, so much for that. I really appreciate it. And I've been meaning to get in contact with you, Dragon Slayer, because obviously we have to put in a lot of orders and send you some things. So, Chip, can you pop up my email? Because I know you sent me your email via a Venmo, but sometimes, given how that app is, it's hard to go find them and find those messages. So can you email me, Dragon Slayer, chase@chatsports.com, because we got to send you a helmet. I want to ask you what jerseys you want. I already have your address, but shoot me an email, my brother, chase@chatsports.com. And as promised, I said if we got over $100 in Super Chats, I would do a beer fall. So I got to do what was promised because we don't lie to the people. Oh! Dragon Slayer again! Dragon Slayer! Dragon Slayer! That's awesome. Oh, for the person who I didn't know how to say their username earlier, my buddies call me Diener Chase. All right, Diener. Thanks for watching the show. Dragon Slayer. Woo! Another 100. Drink. You sent me an email last week, Dragon Slayer? All right, cool. I'll check that out. Let me see. Let me just double check to make sure I got it.
Dragon Slayer continues his crazy run. It's March.
Dragon Slayer. Oh, there it is. All right, got you, brother. Got you, brother. All right, good stuff. I got to finish this beer for Dragon Slayer.
Let's go!
Ah, that tastes delicious. Dragon Slayer, Super Chat MVP. $30 away from 100 in supers. What I'm going to do now, if nobody else has any Super Chats, we'll direct you to our guy Smitty, who's live on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel for some NCAA tournament action. I'll drop that link in the chat here in just a little while. Black Mask back in the building. And what did John Wallace say? Oh, he's talking about Dragon Slayer. Oh, God has been keeping me, Black Mask, working hard, praying for a new venture to be a small business owner. Hey, good luck, Johnny Dubs.
Good luck, brother.
Hope you're able to find success, my man. No doubt about it. All right, should we sign off or should we stay? Let's see. See what's happening in the NCAA tournament here in the meantime. Is it? Okay, yeah, Gonzaga's just running train. I have one loss so far, and it was Clemson. I'm pretty sure I had Clemson going to the Sweet 16. Oh, that's brutal. Oh, yeah, a reminder, too, by the way. Let's do this. Vote for me in the 49ers Gold Standard 49ers March Madness bracket. I posted it earlier. I'm the 2 seed in the Montana region for the 49ers Media Madness bracket on the Gold Standard Podcast Network, led by Rob Stats Guerrera. He's great at what he does. So vote for me. I'm going to drop that link in the chat. Hold up. Let me get the correct link here. Why is it not working? Let me get the proper link. It's just a Google form. There we go. Vote for me in the bracket. How many people are betting on these games in here? I know a lot of people in the Chat Sports office had a lot of cheddar on some of these games. My boy Patrick Seatman, I think he won a couple hundred, few grand. Oh! Dragon Slayer, another 100. All of a sudden, we're up to $370 in Super Chats. I'm going to need to message somebody to get me another beer. Oh, that's unbelievable. Black Mask, hashtag 49ers. Chase, now that the Niners have been cutting costs, I hope I can get cheaper tickets to games this year. Yeah, right. Given the business of the NFL is booming like it is, highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Dragon Slayer, all-time legend, man. Dragon Slayer last week went on one of the greatest Super Chat Venmo runs in the history of the 49ers report. All right, I messaged somebody for a Miller Lite. We're staying because of Dragon Slayer. Again, vote for me in the March Madness poll. Putting the link in the chat right now. Dragon Slayer keeping us live. 3 $100 super chats. What a legend. Saw your email about the jerseys that you want. We'll get those to you, Dragon Slayer. Reminder that we have to get them ordered here. Sometimes it can take a little while, and then we'll send them out. Rolando Lopez just voted for you, Chase. Thank you, bro. Appreciate that. All right, we'll take down another Miller. Thank you, my man. Appreciate you. Hey now. All right, really nothing going down with the NCAA tournament right now. Let me pull back up March Madness here. Oh, Georgia Gonzaga's final. Oh! Slayer is slaying the chat. Another 100. Are there any good kickers in this draft? Andres Borregales out of Miami is the best kicker in this draft class, at least in my opinion. But look, after the Niners took Jake Moody in the 3rd round, I'm scarred from drafting a kicker. I'm just scarred from taking a kicker. I think what the Niners have to do with Moody, bring in competition. Push him a little bit. Spunky Guy, $2. You rock, bro. Nah, you rock, man. You rock, bro. Mitchell and Ness, thank you for the vote. Look, man, what I try to do here is what you noted, right? Unbiased coverage. When the Niners do something well, I will praise them. When they do something I disagree with, or when they mess up, you have to criticize them. That is life, in my opinion. You always have to take accountability, hold people accountable. I am going to have opinions. I'm going to have analysis. if you watch this show, you know that when the Niners were making it to Super Bowls and NFC Championship games, we were going nuts here on this show. Last year when they went 6-11, you expect me to just say, they're doing great. Everything is fine. They entered the year as Super Bowl contenders. Highly disappointing year last year. Hey, Dragon Slayer, another 100. I'll give you another beer cheers here. Mike Viertel, Chase, get more beers. Hey, I got one right here. Freshly cracked. Kyle McKiernan, tell me about it. I've been redoing my entire house for 3 years, finally about to move in. Who buys a house and doesn't move in for 3 years? This guy. See, that's tough. Montana Russo, senior versus Lombardi. Look, I think we both do a great job doing what we do. We both have massively successful YouTube channels. Obviously, Lombardi is more team positive and team friendly. I've rarely seen him criticize anything that the Niners do. That's just not how I go about it. Like, I'm from Philadelphia, right? And in Philadelphia, a 6-11 season does not fly. And with intense Niner fans, a lot of you who watch this show fit that billing, 6-11 season does not fly. They have not won a Super Bowl since 1994. We can't act like they just went on a dynastic run like the New England Patriots. Yes, Kyle McKiernan, I will be on with Larry Krueger tomorrow. It's always a good Friday spot. Myself and Krug. Brad from SF Niners does a great job. Check his YouTube channel out. Give it a subscribe. He also really knows trench play very well. Whenever I have questions about offensive line prospects, I look to see what Brad is saying because I trust his analysis. He played offensive line in college, I believe, and he does a really good job evaluating offensive linemen, and with his YouTube channel, works his ass off too, just like we do here on the Niners Report. Text to Cali, you're a savage, bro. Much respect. I think that we can be savage sometimes. In a good way, of course. He was a trench guy growing up. Solid flow, no doubt. Solid flow with his hair and his beard, too. No doubt about it. I got a different type of lettuce on my head, but when you have it, you got to flaunt it. All right. Are we about to sign off? I like taking questions from everybody. Chris Teal, Chase. How do you feel the special teams will do this year for the Niners, knowing last year almost dead last, if not last? Yeah, DVOA, they were 31st. EPA, they were 32nd, I believe. They were horrible. Absolutely horrible on special teams. And what we have seen the Niners do, give them credit for this. Kyle Shanahan, at his end of the season press conference, he was criticized for not taking special teams seriously enough. Now, he barked back at it, but what did he do? Fired the special teams coordinator. And what have the Niners done in free agency? Signed a lot of special teams guys. So with better coaching, hopefully with Brant Boyer, with better personnel, yes, I do expect them to improve. Let's see. What else do you guys got for me? Willie Lampkin. What do I think of him? Offensive guard out of North Carolina. 3-year starter. Started 38 consecutive games in college. For Larry Krueger, he said, that's my favorite draft crush. I'm looking at one of his videos right now. Kruger's another guy who knows ball. Used to be a scout. All right, let me do one more beer chug for everybody, and then we'll dip on out of here.
Chug, 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 chug. A March Madness chug.
That beer is so cold. Woo. Would you take Wilt Johnson or Jahdae Barron? See, I'm going trenches round one. I just think that's where you win and lose games, in the trenches. So I'm going trenches round one, whether it be offensive line or defensive line. Dragon Slayer did it again. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Dragon Slayer, another 50. That gets us over 500. You got to give me a moment before I chug the rest of this. I'll chug the rest of this for Dragon Slayer, and then we'll hop on out of here. Do I think the Niners are tanking? No, I don't think they're tanking. I don't think a team with Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa, and Fred Warner is tanking. Diamador Lenore, Renardo Green, Malik Mustafa, Dominic Pooney. I don't think that team's tanking with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan as GM and head coach. I think they're resetting a little bit. And look, I said after the year they need to reset. They don't need to rebuild. They need to reset. And we've seen a reset. But I don't think anybody thought they were going to go to the lengths that they've gone in resetting. Johnny Royal makes a great point. Hope all is well, Johnny. Guess we're about to see if Shannon can really coach. This team is about to be basic as heck. I also think what the Niners are doing, they are relying on Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh to coach at an elite level with the lack of star-level talent that they have. They still have more All-Pros than the rest of the NFC West combined on their team. But they're not as talented, not as deep as years prior, and so they need their highly paid, highly compensated coaches to do their job. No doubt about it. Creighton beat Louisville from John Wallace. Yes, I did take Creighton. My only loss so far is Chip's Clemson Tigers. How many points did they score in the first half? 13 points in the first half. Ridiculous. All right, another cheers. Chug for Dragon Slayer, and then we're hopping out of here so we can watch the tournament. A 7.5-point favorites. Brutal. All right, what I want everybody to do. Oh, no. Is Smitty no longer live? He's no longer live. Never mind. He signed off. All right, never mind. I was going to have everybody tuned into Smitty on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, but he just signed off as well. We're going to sign on off. Thanks to Dragon Slayer for being our Super Chat MVP. Candy also sent in a big-time Super Chat. And then the 20 that came in was also a big-time Super Chat from Elm Streeter. Thanks to everybody for being here, hanging out, just watching. We appreciate you. For Chip, I'm Chase. For the faithful, we're heading out. Great coverage to come throughout the weekend. I'll be live with Larry Krueger tomorrow on the Krug Show, and then I'll put some of those clips up here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. Don't forget to hit that sub button. Enjoy the NCAA tournament. We're going to head out to watch some basketball. I hope you do the same. Stay safe. Be golden. We're out. Peace.